In 1835, thousands of desperate people traveled to a small sanctuary in Salem because two brothers claimed they could cure any disease. The sick arrived from across the country, but many of them were never seen again. 37 years later, when the building was finally demolished, workers discovered something hidden beneath the floor. More than 90 skeletons and a secret laboratory where faith itself had been turned into an experiment. When workers demolished the Divine Healing Sanctuary in 1872, most people in Salem believed the nightmare was finally over. The building had stood abandoned for more than 3 decades. Its broken windows rattled in the wind. The wooden chapel sagged with rot, and the once sacred grounds had become a place children were warned never to approach. But the men hired to tear down the structure soon realized the Hawthorne brothers had left behind more secrets than anyone expected. The demolition crew began with the chapel. As the floorboards were ripped away, the workers uncovered the entrance to the infamous laboratory Margaret Whitmore had described years earlier during the trial. But something was wrong. The laboratory appeared smaller than expected. Investigators reviewing the original blueprints realized that the underground structure should have extended another 20 feet beyond the visible wall. At first, they assumed the records were inaccurate, until one worker's hammer struck something hollow. Behind the laboratory's stone wall was a second hidden chamber. The entrance had been carefully sealed with bricks that matched the surrounding foundation so perfectly that it had remained hidden for more than 30 years. When the wall was finally broken open, the workers uncovered what would later be described in official reports as the most disturbing discovery in the entire Hawthorne investigation. Inside the hidden room stood a single wooden desk. Above it hung dozens of anatomical drawings pinned to the walls. But these were not medical diagrams like those found in the laboratory. These drawings showed children. Some depicted nervous systems, others showed behavioral observations. There were charts tracking emotional reactions, fear responses, and something labeled only as faith dependency levels. And on the desk sat one final leather journal. The journal belonged to Ezekiel Hawthorne. Unlike the records found during the original investigation, this one contained something far more disturbing. It wasn't about medicine. It wasn't even about poisoning or fake cures. It was about control. Page after page described experiments designed to understand how human belief could be manipulated. Ezekiel had recorded detailed notes on how long it took desperate patients to trust authority figures, how much suffering a person would tolerate if they believed healing was possible, how quickly families would accept death if told it was God's will, how public demonstrations of miracles influenced entire communities. One entry chilled investigators more than anything else. It read, "Faith is the most powerful drug known to mankind. When properly administered, it eliminates doubt, suppresses reason, and allows the subject to accept even the most impossible claims." Ezekiel had not only studied human physiology, he had studied human belief itself. The Hawthorne brothers had discovered something terrifying. People didn't just want to be healed, they needed to believe in miracles, and that need made them vulnerable. But the final pages of the journal revealed something even darker. During the demolition of the sanctuary, investigators also discovered human remains buried beneath the property. At first, they believed these were the victims previously documented in the brothers' journals, but the numbers didn't match. Over 90 skeletons were recovered from the grounds, yet many of these victims had never been recorded in any of the Hawthorne documents, which meant something horrifying. The official records listing the sanctuary's victims were incomplete. The Hawthorne brothers had kept careful documentation of their fraudulent cures and murders, but the hidden chamber suggested there were other experiments they had never intended anyone to find, and some of those experiments had involved children. The authorities made a decision. The final chamber's contents would never be released to the public. The documents were sealed permanently. Even today, access to the complete Hawthorne files remains restricted to a handful of historians and medical ethics researchers. The scandal surrounding the Hawthorne brothers changed American medicine forever. Before their crimes were exposed, anyone could claim to be a healer. Anyone could sell miracle cures. Anyone could experiment on desperate patients without oversight. But after the Hawthorne case, states began passing laws requiring medical licensing, drug safety regulations, and professional oversight for physicians. These laws eventually evolved into the medical standards that protect patients today. In a strange way, the suffering of the Hawthorne victims helped shape modern medical ethics. But the psychological lessons of the case were even more powerful. The Hawthorne brothers had proven something that still frightens historians. They had proven that belief itself can be weaponized. Margaret Whitmore became a quiet hero in American history. She never sought fame. She rarely spoke publicly about the horrors she had uncovered, but she spent the rest of her life fighting medical fraud. Her work helped create some of the earliest patient protection laws in the United States. And every year on the anniversary of the sanctuary's destruction, she returned to Salem. Not to the ruins of the building, but to the small cemetery where many of the victims were buried. She once wrote in her journal, "The greatest tragedy was not the deaths. It was that so many people died believing they were about to be saved." Today, the site where the Divine Healing Sanctuary once stood is a quiet public park. Most visitors have no idea what happened there. Children play beneath the trees. Families walk along peaceful paths. And in the center of the park stands a simple granite monument. It reads, "To those who sought healing and found betrayal. May their suffering remind us that truth must always be questioned." Despite everything investigators uncovered, one mystery remains unsolved. During Ezekiel's final confession in prison, he made a statement that was never fully explained. He told investigators, "What we began in Salem did not end with us. Others learned from our work." The Hawthorne Network had trained dozens of associates across the country. Many were arrested, but some were never found. Historians still debate whether fragments of the Hawthorne methods survived long after the brothers were executed, and whether their techniques for manipulating belief influenced later movements claiming miraculous healing. Because one uncomfortable truth remains: the Divine Healing Sanctuary is not just about fraud or murder. It is about something deeper, the dangerous intersection of hope, authority, and blind faith. When people suffer, they search for miracles, and sometimes the people offering those miracles are not healers at all. They are simply individuals who understand how powerful belief can be, and how easily it can be turned into a weapon.